So this video is going to be focused on talking about the first category of principles which govern how people make decisions. And in particular, we'll focus on the first one here, where we'll talk about how people face trade-offs. Now, when we're thinking about an economy, we could be talking about the economy of San Francisco, or a regional economy, or the economy of the United States, or the whole world. What we mean is that an economy is just a group of households, a group of people dealing with one another as they go about their lives. But because the behavior of an economy often reflects the behavior of individuals who make up the economy, we begin our study of economics with the four principles that govern individual decision making. And so the four principles are listed here, and let's really just talk about the first one for now. So you must have heard about the saying that there isn't anything such as a free lunch. Now, there's a lot of truth to this saying. To get something we want, we usually have to give up something else that we also like. So we've established in the previous video that decision making is at the heart of economics, and anytime you're making a decision, you are considering trade-offs. Achieving one goal often requires you to give up another, or give up something of another thing. So let's talk about three different examples here, which is the first one is, if you decide to work more, what happens then? So if you decide to work more, you might get paid more. So you get paid more, or your income is higher. But if you spend more time working, then you would have less time for leisure. This could involve anything. If you're a person like me, that could involve less time for hiking, for going for walks, or exercise, or reading. So you can see that there's a clear trade-off here if we spend more time working. But getting paid more obviously can also mean that you can then increase your expenditure on buying goods and services, right? So you're achieving one objective, but then you have to give up on something else. Okay. If you're thinking about going to graduate school, for example, you might also think that, going to graduate school would lead to higher future incomes. You're more educated. We know that more education leads to higher incomes, a higher future income, but it would require you to give up current incomes that you could earn if you were working and not going to school. So there's a trade-off, a clear trade-off here, and this would also require you to dissave, or take out a loan perhaps to go to graduate school. So this would require you to dissave, to pay tuition, or even take out a loan, etc. Okay, and we've talked about at a firm level. So if you're thinking about firms, these are individuals. But if you're thinking about firms, hiring more skilled workers would mean that you're hiring a more productive workforce, but the trade-off would be that you also have to pay higher wages. Okay, so these are just some of the trade-offs that we come across in society. So there's different types of trade-offs given there are different types of individuals, different types of questions that we're trying to answer, the decisions that we're trying to make. Now, society, when we think about an economy, we also face different types of trade-offs. If we spend more on national defense, for example, we might be thinking about that having a trade-off where we are left with less to spend on education or healthcare, especially right now, or less to protect the environment, etc. If we have more pollution regulations in place, then we may have a consequence where the cost of production may go up. If we want to employ, let's say, cleaner technology to produce goods and services, the cost of production can go up. And that might result in reducing the wages or a reduction in wages that are paid to workers. And because cost of production is going up, firms may or companies may pass on this cost to consumers. So prices may go up as a result. Okay, or some combination of this might occur. So while pollution regulations yield a benefit of us having a cleaner environment, right? So obviously there's benefit in terms of cleaner environment. There are all of these other trade-offs that might exist, might coexist. Okay. Similarly, if we decide to spend more on medical equipment or healthcare as a society, then we have less going towards other things like education, environment, etc. Okay, now there are other trade-offs that society face, and these are really talked about, and economists really talk about these a lot, the trade-off between efficiency and equality. So when we talk about efficiency, think about you being efficient, which this would just mean that, you try to derive the maximum benefit in a given amount of time, or maximum benefit given any type of scarce resource. We're thinking about the same concept when we think about economies. So efficiency means that society is getting the maximum benefit from its scarce resources. Oops. And equality, on the other hand, means, this might come easier to you, means that those benefits are distributed uniformly among society's members. So, in other words, efficiency refers to how much we can produce. So, if you're thinking about, let's say, we're producing pizzas, right? Are we producing a small pizza, a medium pizza, a large pizza, or an XL? Similarly, you can think about a society trying to produce goods and services, and the size of the what we call the economic pie tells us about how efficient we are. So if we, as the United States, are producing more goods and services than, or the worth of those goods and services, or the value of those goods and services is a lot higher than, let's say, India or China, then the size of that economic pie is larger for the United States. But then we are also concerned about equality. So we take the same pie, right, and we talk about how is that pie divided, and how equally is it divided. So is it that everyone gets an equal share, or people get unequal shares, but is it highly unequal that the richest people take all of that and the poor are only left with so much? Okay, so this is really talking about distribution. So in economics, we talk about efficiency and equality a lot, and these goals often have a trade-off. To understand this trade-off, we can think about some of the policies like unemployment insurance, right, or any type of other welfare policy. So think about unemployment insurance right now. There are so many claims because unemployment is on the rise because of a pandemic. If you have this type of a welfare policy like unemployment insurance, this is really trying to help members of the society that are in need, or in dire need, in fact, of resources because they need to pay their bills. But there are other policies such as income tax. In the United States, for example, we have a progressive tax system, which means as we earn more, we also pay more in taxes, right? There are different income brackets in the United States, and so as you climb up that income ladder, you have to pay more and more in taxes, right? So if you have both these policies that exist, one, obviously, unemployment insurance is to create more equality, or income tax, the progressive income tax to create more equality. To achieve greater equality, these policies could reduce efficiency. Okay. When the government is trying to redistribute income from the rich to the poor, it's also reducing the reward to work hard. So people may work less and produce fewer goods and services in response to a progressive tax system. In other words, when the government tries to cut the economic pie, if this pie is cut into more equal slices, then the pie actually might get smaller. Okay, but just recognizing that people face trade-offs does not by itself tell us what decisions they will or should make. We're not trying to say that these policies should not exist, but just trying to acknowledge that that there are trade-offs that exist. We're not trying to say that poor households should be ignored or unemployed people should not be given unemployment benefits just because helping them distorts incentives to work. Or we are not trying to say that society should stop protecting the environment just because environmental or pollution regulations reduce our material standard of living. Okay, but this is just to recognize that there are trade-offs that exist between efficiency and equality.